the action. We don't need the words.
We deserve better.
Nigeria, sexy. Ghana, why?
Yes, yes.
From the public sector and with one common cause.
We are tired with the government that lied to us constantly.
This is not acceptable in today, the 21st century.
On Saturday, people took to the streets in Dublin to express their anger, including pensioners who are really feeling the squeeze.
Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo is coming under increasing pressure.
In Panama, thousands of people marched once again to demand measures to curb inflation and corruption.
Argentinians have turned out in their thousands demanding state aid to help cope with the country's surging cost of living.
Sri Lanka is facing its most serious economic crisis ever.
Ordinary Ghanaian is struggling to afford 3 square meals a day because we are suffering.
The common problem with this country did this time around is only God intervention. If we are hungry, might be the worst one.
As of March 2022, the annual rate of inflation worldwide, as measured by the Consumer Price Index, rose to 9.2%, up from the rate of 3.7% recorded in March the previous year. This is a 5.5 percentage point difference in 12 months alone. The inflation rates have led to political unrest in various countries. In Sri Lanka, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa was forced to flee the country after protesters stormed the presidential palace in demonstration against power cuts, shortages of basics such as fuel, food and medicines, and over 50% inflation rates. Similarly, the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson was pushed out of office due to the increasing hardship faced by UK citizens, as well as a series of political crises. His leave deepens the uncertainty hanging over the world's 5th biggest economy that is already under strain from a 40-year inflation high of about 9.1%. Amid Ghana's government's efforts to redress an economy that has enjoyed steady growth since 2010, displeased Ghanaians took to protesting against the rampant and spiraling inflation rate that rose to a record of 27.6% in May. While there has been no recent protest against the rising inflation rate in Nigeria, as seen in other countries, Nigerians have not shied away from voicing their feelings, which is usually that of anger and frustration about the subject matter, apportioning most of the blame to the government.
You go buy now a basket of onions, how much? They are telling you 2,000 naira. Before you are buying basket of tomato, basket of onions, how much? 500. Before COVID. Now, basket of tomato now 4,000 naira. How much you want to use for 1 mudu or 2 mudu? Where people then go eat belly food. This cost, a bag of rice now is almost 30,000, local one. Foreign rice is almost 40. A mudu of this is 900. Gari, common gari is 400, 500. Even the 5,000 naira they promise us, we don't even see now all they collect. Now, person will cry. Say one can save us. 2011 they cry. We don't know say they cry when he cry, say we go cry him. Now we don't cry tire.
According to Nigeria's National Bureau of Statistics, the inflation rate for June 2022 stood at 18.60%. It is the highest since January of 2017. Food inflation in particular for the same period rose to 20.60%.
It is a bit more difficult for people to reach their sources of food in terms of the fact that prices are going up. It's not just the fact that prices are going up, it is also the fact that availability is an issue. And number 3, when you have a crisis like this, you also have an issue of quality.
If you look at Nigeria inflation figures over time, food inflation has always taken the cake, has always been the highest, in the basket of goods and services that are sampled, and of course, food inflation is always more volatile because food production in Nigeria is also seasonal. So it's subject to higher increases compared to others.
Globally speaking, if we actually look at global statistics since COVID, there were a lot of value chains globally that were disrupted. Things like wheat, things like corn became scarce. So what were not problems before can suddenly become problems for us here, though we are not in the war zone.
And then the Ukraine-Russia war began. It exacerbated the level of hunger in Nigeria, given the West African country is Russia's second wheat importer, spending about $401 million in 2021.
Ukrainian war came, Russia-Ukraine, and what we've seen is a scenario where countries have chosen sides. So the other time, the United States put out a statement that any African country seen doing business with Russia will be sanctioned. Meanwhile, Russia is where Nigeria, for example, between Russia and Ukraine, that's where we get 40% of our wheat from for our bread. And we're being asked not to do business with Russia. Meanwhile, Ukraine itself cannot even do business because war is being waged on it. So all of these things come together, perfect storm. And you then look at our own internal mismanagement.
From everything from policy to practice to implementation. If you look at the amount of funds the government has allocated for the agricultural sector, and look at how much of it actually got down to the grassroots, and actually how much of it that got to the grassroots were actually put into farms and into actual practice, then we'll be surprised that we haven't really been able to achieve as much as we could.
Total agriculture exports in 2016 stood at 60.7 billion naira. The exports grew to 170.4 billion naira in 2017, and by 2018, it was at 302.3 billion naira.
The export opportunities for farmers, in Nigeria, initially Gari used to be very cheap, but you remember the time cassava was allowed to be exported. That's when Gari price started surging. So a local farmer that has opportunity to export will rather export than sell locally. So this makes the commodity scarce at home because they have more profit exporting. If we have had more farmers come in to farm, it would have been easy on the economy. But because of the security challenges of Nigeria,
one governor said that because of terrorists, we should go and carpet bomb what he called ungoverned spaces. I mean, that's farmland, simple, okay? So why aren't we talking of taking government presence there by doing mechanized farming one way or the other, partner with security services and the private sector? We have to take over our land rather than just watch them being taken over by terrorists.
Let's stop looking at few big farmers producing a large quantity to be able to supply a large number of people. There's so many small-time farmers who are not optimized. They are not able to get the best yields. They're not able to get the best results. They are doing the little they can. And then how can we make sure that these people are better trained? How can we get more educated and more knowledgeable people on board so that we can grow more? For example, if you look behind me, you see this cattle. This is a mini ranch. It's just an example that it doesn't have to be in a particular location or a particular part of the country. These are mini ranches we are trying to get people to do so that in one small location you can actually have few cows. Maybe it's just about 4 cows here. And then you're able to produce milk. And people come here every day to buy milk. So what was not affordable or available before could be made available.
Research shows that about 14 to 18 million people are expected to face food insecurity across Nigeria between June and August of 2022, and about 12.5 million people will be hungry. However, there seems to be a ray of hope for the global food crisis. This is because Russia and Ukraine recently signed a landmark deal to unblock grain exports from the Black Sea ports. The deal means that around $10 billion worth of grain will be available for sale, and roughly 20 million tons of 2021's harvest can now be exported.